Welcome to another live stream. Let me know if we have audio. I do not have any audio on my monitor tonight. I must have messed that up. Let's see if I can tap on you and fix that. Where is audio? It's on another setting. I will have to rough it tonight and watch the audio on my settings there and on my monitor. But welcome to another live stream. Let me know if the lips are in sync, and hopefully they are. It's great to see you guys in the chat. Let's move things around here so that I can bring the chat on the air. Let's see here. Instant 360 for right now. We'll have off the air. And let's just say hi to some people here. What do we got here? Hi, Freddie. Yeah, it's going to be a cool stream. We are going to be doing some fun stuff tonight. My glasses are fogged up. I've been under my desk. I have been just trying to figure this out, but we'll talk more about that. It's good to see you here. Stop and think. That's Hank, and it's good to be back. I have been gone for 2 weeks. I was in Dallas, Oregon last Tuesday night, moving all of my gear into a hotel room about the time we would go live. Got some dinner when I got to Dallas, Oregon, looked at the clock and thought, wow, if this was a normal Tuesday, I would be live. So a shout out to you, Hank. Good to know you're here from sunny California. So it was a little cool where I just came from. I was up in Leavenworth, Washington, and you have to Google it and check it out. Don't have any footage ready for Leavenworth tonight. I will have some footage here next week, but I do have some footage from the Dallas factory, just 2 minutes of footage that I want to look at tonight. We're also going to be looking at combining two ATEM Extreme ISOs. They're all in my network because that's not something I would ever attempt to do live. But I do have all three in my network. There's nothing plugged in right now other than power and a network cable in my second Extreme ISO. My studio is set up completely like it is normally. I'm probably not going to be able to move everything tonight because I do have some SDI converters that are buried inside my desk because I did that cable organization, and that's going to be a challenge. But let's say hi to everybody here. It's good to have you here, DJ Ware. It's always great to have you. Let's continue down. The downside of being off the air is I'll probably lose a couple people this week, but it is good to see you here, Tony. Always nice to have you on the live streams. Looking down here, I also see Jay. TVJ is here, and good to have you. Hello back. And then I also see Joe from Tech for Fun. It's good to have you here, Joe. I hope some more people join us tonight. I'm just going down through the chat. We'll get to some questions here momentarily, but I'm going to take chat off the air. So the goal tonight, live, is to do some setup in the Extreme ISO number 2. Most of you know that I've been debating about getting another device. I have been using some switches in my studio. I had those in my Skycam. I will show those switches again here as we get ready to make some changes. So everything's the same. I haven't unhooked anything. All I did was make sure this Extreme ISO number 2 is in the network, is communicating with Mix Effect so that I have all three ATEMs in here. And I made a list as I was driving back from my mini vacation. I am charging my phone right now because I do want to do some Apple TV tethering so you guys can see some things behind the scenes here. I do have the Skycam available over my head, and I plan on using that as well when we get to talking about what's on the desk. So not only are we going to look at the control software and kind of show you how you see three ATEMs, both the Pro, the Extreme ISO 1, Extreme ISO number 2. And if you are watching and maybe you don't know anything about Blackmagic design switchers, they're really just designed to be able to operate a show, having multiple HDMI inputs, and now with the ATEM Minis, they've added SDI input devices. And there's a couple differences between the HDMI devices and the SDI devices. We will talk about that here shortly. And if I forget, please remind me. But as I was driving home today, I did make a list of what I really feel strongly I want to have in each one of those extreme ISOs. I also have done a live stream, not a live stream, but a video before where I used these door stops and some Velcro to be able to prop my ATEMs up so I can see them better. You can also purchase a stand from Aaron Parecki. Go over to his channel. He has a whole bunch of stands that he's having 3D printed that are now being made by companies, and they're available around the world. So if you're in the UK, they're available there all over the United States. But I do have some industrial Velcro, and I do have the foot, these, I call them stands for my ATEM, but they're really door stops. So we'll get into those here in a little bit. But the idea is, if you don't know anything about these switchers, is that typically you're going to bring in like a DSLR camera. They're not designed for USB cameras, though you can hook a USB camera up to your PC or your Macintosh, and then you can bring in the Mac or the PC as a monitor out, and then you can display your screen. So like right now on my laptop, I do a share screen so that I can be seeing my laptop and you can see it at the same time. And then on my PC, it stands right here, but I always kind of talk about my PC on this side and my laptop on this side, but in reality, they're both on the same side. I use my PC for chat and my Skycam, and I'm gonna try to incorporate the desktop of my PC more in my new setup, but I can bring in a webcam through my PC plus anything else on a PC. So you could bring in PowerPoint, you could use software. There's plenty of software out there that you could bring in as well, and you could do graphics. You have HDR graphics. There's lots of things you can do. And then plus if you have Companion, which is a software that's available for free, then you can create buttons in your Stream Deck using the Companion app, and then you can control, which I will be going to more Companion, because I'd like to control more than just one device, and Companion can activate a HyperDeck, another HyperDeck, an ATEM 1, ATEM 2, ATEM 3, and we'll talk about how I'm going to use my three Blackmagic design switchers, one being an ATEM Mini Pro, which can record just the program out. It can also stream, it can also encode, and then I also have two Blackmagic Design Extreme ISOs, and they can record all the channels. They can also encode, and they can also stream. And so in reality, all three of my ATEM Minis can stream and they can encode, but the Extreme ISOs can also record every channel. So if I was using those to have 16 separate channels, which you can't, because somehow I've got to get my ATEM main Extreme ISO, which is now streaming to you guys out there, I have to be able to get the ATEM Mini Pro, which is now coming in the channel 3, into the stream. So one of my channels in my Extreme ISO is dedicated to bring in the program from my ATEM Mini Pro. And then my ATEM Mini Pro has 4 inputs, and that means I can bring 4 more things in. But me being the crazy guy I am, 3 of those I have switches on. What does that mean? That means I have 2 inputs, and I can switch between input 1 or input 2 and bring it into one of those 3 inputs. So the first input on my ATEM Mini Pro is just my overhead camera. Right now I'm on my PC so I can display chat. But if I want to change over to input number 1, and I turn my camera on, because I still have my Canon 5D Mark III and it goes out, times out after so many minutes, then I can bring that on the air and show my desk. And here's my desk, and I need to adjust that before we take it live tonight. And you can see it's the frames per second I have set on it is letting the ATEMs, they basically have that little, what do you call it? Whatever they call this. I don't see that, but you guys see it because that's happened because of my frame rate. And you can go to like 100 frames per second and you can get rid of that, or shutter speed will get rid of that. Normally I have it set at 100. We'll adjust that later if we use that camera. So I have literally 6 things coming through those 3 channels, and then 1 being the overhead camera, downward desk facing camera coming in to channel 1. And I have to hit little switches to change that. So the reason I am going to another extreme ISO is because it has 8 inputs, where the ATEM Mini Pro that I have on my desk right now only has 4. What does that mean? That means I can get rid of those 3 switches. Now, believe it or not, I'm still going to have 1 switch left because I want to be able to choose between my streaming bridge and to be able to bring program in. And the reason I would possibly bring program in, that would be if I wanted to stream for a client through my extreme ISO number 2 and not be streaming from my other one. And I do occasionally do some private streams for clients as well as some recorded videos. So I'm still playing around with, will I need any of those switches? But in reality, my switches can go away if I want them to, and just bring in the program or bring in my streaming bridge. Now, many of you guys know that I am planning on doing a Studio B. So let me just review that really quickly. It's on hold right now because my wife and her mom have been looking at houses and the possibility of us building another house. And so that she has a floor and then we have a floor. And then we would pick a floor plan that works better for our studio. I still have the plan of having a Studio A and a Studio B, but they may not be on the other side of the house. They may now be right next to each other. And so I will be using my ATEM Mini Pro as both a mobile rig to do outside streaming from the studio, as well as a broadcast rig from Studio B. And then I can stream from the ATEM Mini Pro to what Blackmagic Design has created is a streaming bridge. And so basically I can come through the internet of my house, or I could open up the firewall and let my ATEM Mini Pro stream into my streaming bridge from another location, which I don't plan on doing. I don't want to open up a window into my network here for many, many, many reasons. Some of you are very good at doing that and knowing how to do that safely, but maybe someday I will do that. But as of right now, that's kind of been my approach. And I will be streaming from the ATEM Mini Pro from Studio B back in to this studio, which is Studio A. And if we move, it'll be the same way. I'll have a main room and then a Studio B. Studio B, primarily it would be designed for me to be up and moving. I do have my lab mic on tonight that I can use my DJI mic kit, and I could get up and move around. That way I can push this out of my way when we get ready to move some cables around. So the goal tonight, why I'm streaming, why I'm recording, why this camera's live from my ATEM Mini ISO 1, my main, which is what I'm calling it my main. I may move a couple inputs into ISO number 2. So, and with that, let me do a little bit of adjustment here on this Skycam and stand by. Sorry about that. I hope you didn't see my gut. I'm literally adjusting that camera because I want to get you guys a good view down here on the desk, and I'm going to cut to that camera right now. And so there's a shot down on the desk. Let me bring that up full screen here and get the focus adjusted here. So back to multi-view behind me. So there you have, and I'm going to bring this into multi-view here in a minute, but I have the new Extreme ISO, which I purchased. That's my ATEM MINi PRO, and you can see I have just 4 inputs coming in here. Got one missing here right now, my streaming bridge. I think I did actually pull that. And then I have the other 2. This is the output coming into channel 3. And so this is feeding my main Extreme, and now the ISO is going to feed my main Extreme. So the goal is to get those hooked up tonight so that I have a little bit more control. Now, one of the things Freddie said, which I want to acknowledge, which is really good feedback when we were emailing back and forth, is that he says sometimes I have to work at getting chat on the air and the Skycam on the air. And I still don't know how to solve that challenge. And the reason I'm saying I don't know how to solve that challenge is because with my PC, right, I'm not sharing any of the screens. I have 3 screens. One is my BenQ monitor, so I can see what's on my PC. Then I have my Wacom tablet, so I can bring chat in front of me, so I can look right down and see the comments and all that stuff when I'm paying attention to that. And then I can also use my Wacom pen to bring them on the screen, but I can use my mouse as well. And I didn't talk about this last week. I wanted to, but both the Logi keyboard, which gives you the ability to choose 3 different devices. So I can choose my iPad, my PC, or my laptop. That and the mouse can choose 3 locations as well. I like this as a tool to be able to use whatever device I want to. So I could take them over to the desk and control my PC, or I could control my iPad, or I could control my laptop by that mouse. And that's a great way of being able to have 1 less or 2 less little Bluetooth devices, USB Bluetooth devices to plug into my my equipment. So I love that one will do all 3 devices, which is amazing. So the goal then tonight is to lose the ATEM MINi PRO so I can use it both as a mobile rig as well as Studio B. Now, because Studio B isn't launched yet, I'm going to set up for this room. So the plan, and I'm going to review those inputs here in just a second, right after we look at the chat. But we're going to set up for in here, and then when we finally get a Studio B, then we will take the ATEM MINi PRO in there, and I'll live set it up as well. So while it's streaming into one of my lives through my streaming bridge, we will then pull a camera down, go out there, hook it up, and then you'll see me out there. So there's a couple things to consider when you're combining 2 extreme ISOs, and that is the Extreme ISO 1 and 2, they don't communicate at all, even though they're both on my my internet, my internal network in my house, and I could see them from my iPad, my laptop, MixFX, all of that. They're not communicating with each other. Their only tie to communicate with each other is what I would bring from ATEM MINi 2 Extreme ISO into ATEM MINi 1. So right now, I bring the program out of the ATEM MINi PRO, and most of you know it only has 1 HDMI out, so it can be multi-view or not. So if I cut to my overhead camera again, you're seeing the program, but if I hit the multi-view button on the front of the ATEM, you're now seeing the multi-view from my ATEM MINi PRO. So I have to now decide, do I want to bring in, because I have 2 HDMI outputs now on the Extremes. And one of the big advantages, if you do buy or purchase a Extreme HDMI, you get 2 outputs. But to muddy the waters, if you buy the SDI version of the Pro ISO, guess what? It has 2 SDI outs. So you could do this if you just wanted 4 channels of extra mixing to bring into your show, then you could bring in those 4, but you could choose between bringing one of those SDI outs into your other switcher or 2. Now remember, if you bring 2 out and 2 in, you're losing 2 channels on your main mixer. So right now, after bringing in my ATEM MINi Pro into my Extreme ISO, I lose 1 channel because I'm bringing it into input number 3. So input number 3 on my Extreme ISO is taken up by my ATEM MINi Pro. So my plan tonight is to take up 2 inputs. So that's a challenge. So I'm going to go from 16 total inputs, right? But 2 of those are going to be dedicated to have ATEM MINi main receive at least 2 inputs from ATEM MINi 2 Extreme ISO. So again, but I can also record every single channel by having a disc in both of those and then starting record. And I'm recording right now, but I'm only recording the program out tonight because I don't want to take any more chances of crashing the system if I start unplugging anything from the show. And I might crash anyway. We'll see. I think this is a crazy thing to be doing, to be pulling anything, but we're going to try it anyway. So let me do this. Let me get back to PC here, and let's bring the chat on the air and catch up with what's happening. Clear that. See if anybody else has joined us. First off, say hi. Learn Blue Iris, which I believe is still Joe. I don't know if you changed joining in. Let's see what else we have here. I hope I don't miss anybody. I've got Forced Online. Doug is here. You have a different logo, so that's cool, Doug. And I'll get back to comments and questions here in a minute. Just going back through here, I've said hi. I believe I said hi to you earlier, DJ Ware, but just to make sure I did, I will say hi again. Okay, so let me just go back here and see if there's any questions. And again, if you put my name in front of your question, I'll know it's a question or a comment. That way I don't miss it. Or you could use the Q colon, which is what Aaron Preki uses to sort. I'm not sorting anything. It just is easier to see it. But I will go through these here real quick. Tony says the audio is low, so let's bring that up just a little bit here. Sorry about that. Super hot there. That's going to be a lot hotter, and I apologize. I normally turn my RodeCaster Pro up right before we go live, and I did not do that. Let me know if that's too hot now. I'm watching the meters. They look good, so I'll try not to over talk. Again, live. Should have been looking at these earlier. So if you're learning how to do live by watching me, don't make that mistake. So we've taken care of that. Thank you, Tony and Freddie, for letting me know. Yes, my finger is better. I've changed my diet. I'm actually shedding some pounds, eating healthier, walking almost every day. And because I've cut out most sugars right now, it's healing up my skin. But thank you for pointing that out and noticing. Thank you. I do have a nice midsection. It's getting less middy. So whatever. You're hilarious. Yeah, 3 ATEMs, Jay. I have 3 ATEMs on my desk. I'm going to tell the story about the second Extreme ISO here in just a minute. No, I will not have to turn off my webcam for this new setup. I'm still planning on using that. And then I have another webcam, the one right here in the box that will be in the Studio B, because I always want a way to move around the studio. Now, I know there's another manufacturer that makes something very similar to this, and I think they already made a plug-in for the Stream Deck. But I do like the fact that I can create 6 locations and then use the keyboard Alt. I think it's Alt 1 through 6 for those locations. I normally just have it opened on my screen and I can tap on those locations. So I do plan on keeping my Skycam, and we're going to be looking at Skycam here shortly tonight. And I hope you buckle down, get something to drink, because this is not going to be a short stream. If you've got to go, you can come back later and watch it on the channel. And I am, again, recording, so I may take clips of this and break it into some shorts, or I may not. And to give you an update on my Stream Deck Plus series, because I was out of town for the last 6 days, I'm trying to do everything I can to get part 3 and part 4 out in the next 5 or 6 days. I've recorded them all. They just need to be edited. And there's 5 parts so far, and then 1 more that I want to record that has come up after doing those. I want to finish the edit, and then I will produce part 6. Don't cross the streams, Keith. I'm not sure what that means. I'm not going to stream twice from both different decks, so FYI. So I'm only going to be streaming live from my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which is what you're seeing right now. I do not plan on hitting another stream button. I'm just going to hook up some outputs that I'm not currently using tonight into the ATEM. I was going to consider pulling camera 3 over because its cable's long enough so you guys can see that go from the ATEM Mini Pro into the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO number 2. So we'll see how that goes tonight. And that's a good point. Yeah, I will not cross over streams. Thank you, Tony, that it's better. Probably too loud. Oh, my Wacom 1 off. No, I'll still use my Wacom 1. I'll tell you a reason I like it. Because it sets on the desk, and I have things buried tonight, so I can't raise it up. But because the size of it, and because it sits on my desk right in front of my RodeCaster Pro, I really like it. It's another monitor. There's some disadvantages of taking up it as a monitor, but my PC also comes into my ATEM Mini Pro, and then I can bring that on the air by bringing channel 3 on the air. So again, I'm still going to keep that set up, and we'll just have to try to figure out how all of that's going to work. Now, if I shut down my ATEM Mini Pro right now, I would lose my chat ability, and I'd also lose my ability to put the Skycam on the air. So that's a little sketchy. So that's why my ATEM Mini Pro is live. It's in the stream tonight, and we are going to look at that here in just a minute. So any other comments before we roll in to step number 1? Tell a little bit of the story of this purchase and what I purchased, as well as dive into the control software to show you all 3 ATEMs, and then we're going to dive into changing some things on the desk after I get Skycam fired up. Oh, the Ghostbusters didn't cross the streams. Yeah, I think it's a good attempt at humor. I skipped over it. This is what he's talking about right here. For all of you that did not go on the screen, but now it's on the screen. So now it's off the screen. Okay. So let's pause on the questions right now. You guys can continue chatting amongst yourselves if you want to. But I'm going to now focus in on bringing up Super Source. So let me make a little change right here. Okay, so let's bring up the control software. Okay, me and my laptop. So here you can see I have the, if you want to open this up, you just go on to File and Connections. I'm not going to walk you through that, but if you have an ATEM switcher, you're familiar with this. And here they are. You have ATEM Mini Pro, you have my ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, and I have my ATEM Mini ISO number 2. So I can connect to any one of those. Currently, this software is showing you what's live. That's my live audio. And so I'm connected to ATEM Mini Extreme ISO, which I'm going to call my main, and then Extreme ISO number 2 is going to be my number 2, and that's going to be feeding these extra inputs that I don't use all the time into my live streams or my training. So why would I want to do that? Well, it's simple. I want to be able to show lots of different angles. I could have bought an ME2. I would give me way more outputs, and trust me, I was tempted, but you also have to convert the ME2. So, because it's all SDI inputs, all SDI outputs. And to me, adding all those extra converters when I'm already basically power poor was a turnoff to me. So I decided to just stick with HDMI, hope that Blackmagic Design would come out with a mixer that had 12 or maybe 16, but instead they did develop, and I predicted this as well and felt like they probably would go to the rack mounted devices because they were way more out of date. And those devices are some of the bigger venues, and the bigger venues for longer runs, they need SDI, even though now you can buy some really good quality fiber HDMI cables and go long runs. And if you go back to Aaron Precky's live stream from last Sunday, he actually pops a link into the chat with some of the fiber ones that he's used and has tested before. And that's why I really like to go over to Aaron Precky's live streams every Sunday at 10 a.m. West Coast time, because I learn a lot of the things that he's used. And for 10 years, he was already doing live streaming events. So before Aaron Precky started his channel and started his live stream, well, not his channel, but his live streams every week, he was doing live events. And so that's why he's passionate about the YOLO box. That's why he knows the ATEM, and he has been using the ATEM at live events and some other tools as well for a long time. And he's one of the mentors that I learned from. So if you haven't subscribed to his channel, get over there on Sundays or watch it delayed and pick up some of these links. And obviously you're going to be supporting his channel because they are affiliate links, but that again gives you the ability to skip all of the research and go directly to something that he's already used and it's been proven for him. So long runs, SDI, right? Short runs, HDMI. So the ATEM Minis were designed for studios like this, where you got a camera here, camera there, camera there. And so I do have camera 2 hooked up tonight, and it is showing the desk. So here is the new SDI that I just purchased. Here is the old one hooked up and live, and it is on the air and recording. And then here's the ATEM Mini Pro. So you can have multiple angles, not with long runs, and get over 10 foot or so, you start losing the ability to stay connected, or you start losing signal. But if you go SDI or you go fiber, and there are even some CAT versions, right? Ethernet versions that shoot over long distances. So there are options like that. So the SDI models, the mid-range rack mounts like the 2ME and the 4ME that they just released, that have actually the ability to do the super source, which I just had on the screen, cutting back to super source. This isn't available in the ATEM Minis. Yeah, now you can do a background, and then you could do a foreground in a DVE and have a still image over there, and then have yourself over top of that still image. But you don't have multi-view and the ability to bring 4 boxes on the air like this unless you go to one of the extremes. And that's still true with the SDI mini models that only have 4 inputs. You still have to get up to the SDI extreme ISOs to be able to get multi-view or super source. So again, and then the smallest ATEM Mini doesn't have multi-view. So you got to go to the ATEM Mini Pro or ATEM Mini Pro ISO to get multi-view. So Blackmagic has done a really good job of creating their hierarchy and giving us reasons to either stay or go. So now if I was doing a big gigantic venue and I needed lots of SDI runs, I would have probably dove into the for ME and spent the money and bit the bullet, but I just did not see the necessity to do that. So I felt like Studio B mainly would be my ATEM Mini Pro with a few inputs so I could be at a table with a forward camera, down-facing camera, my laptop, and maybe chat on the air from the laptop, and maybe one other view for an Apple TV so I could go mobile in there, and then be able to wear a lav mic and broadcast right from that ATEM Mini Pro in that room. And then when I come in here, broadcast from this. And that run, I would just use my streaming bridge because I already own it. And the streaming bridge lets me broadcast from the ATEM Mini Pro directly to the streaming bridge, and then the HDMI out of the streaming bridge comes into my studio right here as one of the inputs. So again, so not only did this extreme ISO come available from someone that had tuned into the show, and we developed a relationship and had been talking back and forth off camera, off air, and I knew about a HyperDeck that he had that I did not purchase, and then I knew about this extreme ISO, and it turns out that he also had another RodeCaster Pro version 2. So I have 2 of these now. And so the goal is this will be in a mobile rig. I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to build that yet. I'm waiting to see what happens with Studio B. Is it going to be in this house or another house? But this gives me an ATEM Mini Pro, which will record the program. So I could do some basic live switching someplace else and live stream. And then I also have a sound device. So I could bring in a speaker mic. I could bring in a talkback mic, all kinds of things from this device. And now I have, with the new update, the firmware update, I have the ability to do sub mixes. And what does that mean? That means that I can send specific things to the live stream or not to the live streams, like a mix minus. And if you don't know what mix minus is, if you have someone in your live show and you're talking to them, you don't want to send them their voice back to them because they already hear their voice naturally. They probably hear their voice through their headphones. And so that would just create a weird delay loop. And it drives guests crazy when you don't do a mix minus, and that's available inside the ATEM Mini Pro version 2 or RodeCaster Pro version 2. So RodeCaster Pro, ATEM Mini Pro go into the B plan. And so when I hook up the new ISO, I'm not going to be using ATEM Mini Pro in this room anymore. So then I can start building this portable kit. And I haven't decided exactly how I'm going to do that, but you guys will know. I will probably talk about it in the live streams in the future. So that's kind of what got me here. So I purchased both of those. I got a really good deal thanks to one of our listeners, and it make total sense to stick to HDMI inputs. So now I have 2 outputs that come out of my main extreme, and one of those goes to confidence monitors. And so whatever I put on that monitor is different than this monitor. So this is multi-view, and I can change that on the matrix right on the front. So I can change whatever camera, and I love the matrix on the front. So if it's a live channel, I can cut to the program, I can cut to multi-view, and that's one of the features I absolutely love about the Extreme is you have that matrix. You also have a matrix on the Pro as well. So the one HDMI output can be adjusted as well. So if I cut back to camera 3, and then bring it on the air, that's the program. And then I push the matrix button, and I can get different views. There's multi-view, and there's program, and here's just camera 1. And I actually hit camera 1 on the matrix. That's program. You can watch me push the buttons. And there you go. And I don't think anything else is live right now. My PC is live. Yeah, so if I hit input number 3, actually input number 3, it's gone to sleep. So there you go. So that's the program. Cut back to me. And so now what I want to do is bring 2 inputs in to my Extreme ISO number 1. So let's talk about that real quick. So here is the plan. So let me get into my little notepad here. For those of you that are super interested, let me turn the audio down because you can see right here I have me in the corner because I was watching the stream to make sure the audio is working inside the live stream. So ATEM Mini 1, which is the one on my desk, channel 1 is going to be camera 1, and that's what it is right now. Channel 2 is going to be camera 2, that's what it is right now. Input number 3 is going to come from ATEM number 2, and I do already use input number 3. So all of this, I don't have to reprogram my brain to think about is all. But here's what's changing. Right now, my laptop comes into channel 4. So if I cut to channel 4, there you go, that's my laptop. If I cut to channel 3, that's coming in from my ATEM Mini Pro. Channel 2, that's this camera that you guys see all the time without the logo. And then input number 1 is this shot on the desk. That's actually my camera 1. And then the other 4 inputs, 5, 6, 7, and 8, they are my HyperDecks. So I have my HyperDeck Mini coming into channel 5 and 6, and my HyperDeck Studio or HD Plus is Studio HD Plus is coming into input 7 and 8. So that's all the inputs. So 2 cameras, a laptop, as well as an ATEM Mini Pro coming in. Then I have 2 HyperDecks. So that's what's in it currently. So what's going to change is input 3 and 4 are going to be HDMI out 1, HDMI out 2 from my new Extreme ISO. Now, why am I doing that? Well, one of them, I'll have a matrix on the front of the Extreme to bring in any one of those channels. And the other one will come in just as program. So if I just want to bring in something from my ISO version 2, I can just switch to that channel. If I want to do an automatic cut, I can set it up to automatic cut. Right now I have it as a preview program. And if you don't know what that is, you can go inside the software and you can actually change that setting. Let me close this and I'll show you guys. Can I show that? Connections. Extreme ISO number 2, connect. Okay, let's bring this on the screen. So this is Extreme ISO number 2. It's live, and you can go into the macros, and they're completely empty. And you can go over here to output, and you have 2 outputs, so I'll be bringing both of those in, and I have a matrix here I can choose. You can see right now output number 1 is set to program, and output number 2 is set to program, and I can change those as well. And one of those outputs I have the ability to change on the front of that device. So if I was to change on that device right now to multi-view, now I'll go back up here, and you can see that output number 1 is now multi-view, and I'm going to push a button again to channel 1, and you're going to watch it change on the screen. I'm literally pushing the buttons on the front of ATEM. So input number 1 coming into channel 3, I could just reach over and do an exact cut. So that's going to be super handy for me. Now, if I want to bring 2 of those inputs from my ISO number 2, then I'll be able to do that because both channel 3 and 4 can be brought in the air on multi-view. So if I wanted camera 3 on the air, and I'll cover what the other things are going to be in the Extreme ISO number 1. So we'll turn that back to program so you can see it right there. And then if I go into connections, let's change back here. I don't want to display everything here. So go back to connections. Setup. Let's move this over here. This. Can't do that. So let's exit this. Let's drag this over on top. cut back. So here you have, I can change between program and cut bus right here in the settings. And again, what that means is that I can have it either cut immediately by hitting the buttons on the front of my ATEM, or I can have it go into preview program. That means the preview will be green and the program will be red. Where if I have cut bus set, whatever I hit on the front of that ATEM buttons, the big buttons on the front, it's going to go to that particular device. So to demo this, I'm going to go in here again. I'm going to change it to cut bus. And now let's bring in camera 1 here. And so now if I cut, I guess I have to refresh and get out and back in again. So let me go out, file, let's cut back to this. Going to be persnickety here. Connections, let me go back to my other extreme. And now let's see. Connections, extreme ISO, connect. Settings, cut bus, save. And for some reason right now it is not working. Go figure. So let me go back. Connections, go back to extreme ISO number 1 and get back in control of my show here. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is waiting for it to fire up. You can also go into labels. And so you go into settings in the bottom left, go up to labels, and I can change the inputs. I've already done this before on my ATEM MINi Pro. And so if I was to go in the screen of my ATEM MINi Pro, go up here to connections, go to my ATEM MINi Pro, go down here to settings. You can see I've changed those labels to my Canon 5D3, streaming bridge, HyperDeck. Again, that's got a switch attached. I have to choose which one. Channel 3, PC or Extreme Multi-View. So that means I can show my Extreme Multi-View that way if I want to. And then I have input number 4 is program or my iPhone. So I can tether my iPhone through my Apple TV. And then again, number 1 is not got a switch. That's just my Canon. And then number 4, and it says there's a number 5, but there isn't a number 5. I don't know why a number 5 shows up in this software. So just cancel this. I'm not changing that. So if I go back here to connections and go to ISO number 2, it simply has no labels as of yet. So I need to label that's inputs. I can also label the outputs. I can also change other settings. No HyperDecks are currently connected. So I do plan on moving one of my HyperDecks. So let's talk about what's left in this list. So again, input 1, camera 1, right? That's the camera that's on the ATEMs right now. Camera 2 will be this camera. Input number 3 and 4 will come in from my extreme ISO. So again, this device is going to come in through the 2 HDMI outputs into channel 3 and 4. Camera 1 is the camera right up here that you're seeing. Camera 2 is the main camera that I'm in all the time. And now I have my extreme ISO number 1 set to cut bus. So I can just cut immediately to those channels. So 1 is a dissolve. 2 is a dissolve, and it still dissolves because that's what I have set up, but I'm not going to push a button and then have to hit the auto transition button. And that's what I was demoing before. So back to camera 1. So again, 1 and 2 are going to be cameras. 3 and 4 are going to come from this deck. 5 and 6 are now going to be my laptop. Are going to be my laptop, and I'm thinking my PC, though I haven't sorted this out yet. And then I'm going to have my one HyperDeck. So my main HyperDeck, I play my intro video, my outro video. I will then be playing my subscribe logo, my fireworks, all from that single HyperDeck. So all of those graphics, intro graphics, will be recorded from that. I will then use my other HyperDeck for probably some recording directly to it. I will also do some graphics from it, mainly when I'm demoing to people the key and fill from a HyperDeck Mini, and that's through consulting. And then my Shuttle is going to move over as well. So now that we've talked about what's in HyperDeck or ATEM Extreme ISO number 1, here comes number 2. So channel 1 of my new Extreme ISO is, drumroll, is going to be my Apple TV. Number 2 is going to be my camera 3, and that's my downward camera, which will eventually end up moving most likely to Studio B. But for right now, that's going to be my downward camera. Then I'm going to have multi-view coming in from my ATEM 1. That means I can bring my multi-view on anytime I want to. And I could do that by either bringing in just the program out and switching with the matrix out of HDMI output 1, or I could bring in HDMI output number 2, which is almost always dedicated to program. I haven't quite decided yet. I have to sort that out. That's not going to get hooked up tonight. But then output number 4 is going to be my streaming bridge, and I might also leave a switch there and bring in program. Still sorting that out in my head. Input number 6 is going to be my HyperDeck Shuttle HD. It does not have any SDI outputs. It doesn't have a key and a fill. So it just has a fill HDMI out, and it's great for playing teleprompter as well as videos. And so that will be coming into input number 6. Input number 7 is going to be then the fill from my HyperDeck Mini, which I'm going to be taking out of my first Extreme ISO and moving it into the last 2 channels of my new Extreme ISO. And then input number 8 will be the key, because my HyperDeck Mini has a fill and a key, and my HyperDeck HD Plus has a fill and a key. And if you don't know what those are, the fill basically is the logo itself, if you're doing a flying logo or a flying graphic. And then the key is a key that cuts out the background. So just like green screen, you can take an eyedropper and you can use chroma key and remove the green background or remove a blue background. You could even remove a black background like a regular Luma key does. Doesn't make sense, but if you could, but this will actually be pre-multiplied. It's built into the graphic. And so the HyperDeck, if it's built into the graphic, and you have that turned on in your key, it will then cut out the background. So as my logos fly across the screen, the background then is cut out so that you get a better, crisper background. So the HyperDeck Mini, Studio Mini, which is the older version, and the new HyperDeck Studio HD Plus, the newer version, they both each take up 2 channels. So 2 of my HyperDecks take up 4 channels, and then my Shuttle takes up 1. So that's 5 inputs, and you can understand now why I want to add more inputs. Now, why have multiple HyperDecks? Well, one, I'm still training on the older Mini, as well as I'm training on the new HD Plus. I also do some training on the Shuttle. I'm doing training now on the Stream Deck Plus, do some training on the Stream Deck XL. So having those in my studio for my consulting business is super important, which is the biggest reason why I have all these inputs, because of all the different angles that I need to show. So let me do this now. Let me bring up my camera now. Let's go into chat here first. So let me go back to PC. Chat is on the air. And Freddie's asking this. Can you save all the settings, macros, etc. of each ATEM so that you can use it in case you need to restore any of the ATEMs? Hope you never need to. Well, I've tried a few things by like restoring my HyperDeck settings, and so far, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. The good news is, Freddie, I'll be able to create Stream Deck buttons through Companion to control both decks. I also will have macros programmed in both of my ATEMs to do basic things like put logos on the screen. But again, keep in mind, if you have a macro created, that logo needs to be in the media pool. So to give you an example, I'll open up my media pool right here and show you I have, let's see here, connections. So I'll open up my media pool here, turn chat off. Well, I can leave this on the air, and I'm going to go to, it's loading. Let me go to this view right here, Freddie. Don't worry, we'll get to tearing things apart here in just a minute. So that's the media pool. So if my logo isn't in here and I create a macro to load that logo, if there's nothing in here, it's just going to be a blank screen. If I had something else dropped in here, then obviously the logo that's on the screen right now is trade. So if I don't have this loaded correctly, then you get that on the screen. So whatever would be in that box, that macro is going to display that. So macros work as long as you keep everything set up the same. So that's why I do take time before each of my live streams to make sure I'm ready to go. So again, it's not necessarily easy. Working with macros isn't necessarily easy. Probably the hardest thing about macros is that they don't know where you've been. So when you create a macro, it's kind of your current state. It has no idea that I have this camera on, I have this logo on. You literally have to tell it when you're programming a macro. So you tell the macro to cut from camera 1 to camera 2 when you start to use that macro, and you don't see the glitch. It just goes to camera 2, which is this camera, and then you tell it to load that particular icon. So if I'm programming a macro, as I'm programming the macro, I'm literally going to take this logo and drag it up into media player 1. So the macro knows that it wants to take slot 13 and load it in here, but it doesn't know slot 13 is this particular graphic. So it's not going to go find it for me. It expects that graphic to be right there. And so when you are programming macros, it's very important that you start with a save state that has all of your backgrounds, all of that already preloaded, and then you create macros. And then like my still image, this image right here, all I do each week is I change the still image. So my macro that I just tapped on always puts the still image up there. It's the same with my intro video, my outro video. I delete the old version, I rename the new version, intro video live, outro video live, and then my HyperDeck can find those. Now, if I add another video to my HyperDeck, it doesn't necessarily know the order. So the HyperDeck has its own kind of hierarchy. So I've created videos before to show you guys live, loaded it on the same disk in my HyperDeck, and then I went to test my intro video and it played something else. So I almost always, like tonight, if I have a video I'm going to play, I have it on a separate SD card and I just switch while we're live so I can play something specific from this and I don't mess up my macros for my HyperDeck. Now, I know that's a long answer and I apologize for that. So, okay. Let's see. Good evening from Denver. It's good to have you, Cato FM, on the air. There you are. It's good to have you. Better have some more coffee. This is complicated. Yeah, it is complicated. You're welcome, Freddie. I'm going to need all the help I can get. I'm good. Just so you guys know, I've spent, I would say, probably a day or so processing this, deciding which direction to go. And I'll simplify this for those of you. I know Tony reached out to me earlier today and said that he's doing some debating about getting extra inputs in his studio. And so a lot of people are looking at the 2ME and the 4ME. And again, the big advantage, in my opinion, to those devices, the biggest for me would be the ability to have multiple outputs. So you could do some really cool things with outputs. And I use splitters to do that in my studio, because in reality, mostly the only two things I ever really want to have up in my studio is the program that everybody's seen. Occasionally I want to bring up each of the inputs, and I can simply do that with the matrix on my monitor. So you can see camera 1 come up behind me. That's also what I see here. So if I need to focus a camera, it pops right up here on my BenQ. And so to me, that's hugely valuable. I can put program back there. So the matrix is either going to be program or multi-view, and the program could be then whatever input if I want it to be. And all that can be done with the matrix on front of the ATEM. But the simple reason that I'm going to an extreme ISO is two things. One, I want those 8 inputs, right? HDMI. I want those 2 outputs at the same time, because I don't have that second output in my ATEM Mini Pro. And then I want the ability to be able to bring those things on the air and record each of those inputs. So if I'm just doing a training video with one of my clients, I can record both inputs, and then later I can quickly show them whatever I want to show them. So if I want to go to my RodeCaster Pro 2, if I have it on a camera, then I can do that. Like right now, I do have my downward camera, so I want to be able, and I can't do this now. I cannot record all the channels from my ATEM Mini Pro. So like for instance, my downward camera I can bring on the screen right now. If I turn chat off the air, it goes off the air, but I can cut to it just like I did. And so I can bring that on the air, but I'm not recording that until I'm recording ISO tracks, and then that camera comes live. This little point right here would be live in that recording, and the rest of the screen would be whatever I have coming in from that particular input. So if I leave it live in my ATEM, then yeah, my ISO is going to record it in my extreme ISO main. But right now, nothing's being recorded in my ATEM Mini Pro. So only thing I'm recording right now is the program, the thing that you guys are seeing. So the new ISO will be able to record all the tracks, and that's going to be huge for me editing videos later. So that's the big thing. So let's do this. Any other chat before we go here? Did you create a flow chart? Let's go back here to chat on the air. Sorry about that. Let's go like this. No, I'm going to have a flow chart next week. Tony, only reason I'll have a flow chart is that I was still debating this as I was driving back from my little trip, and I just did not have time. So I apologize for that. So I will though. So be ready to see that image. And as soon as I get that done, Tony, I will send it to you. I'm probably going to work on that on Thursday. And so I'll share that in email with you then. Freddie, you too, I can send that over to you. And I'll do that to you, Joe, as well. Yeah. So because I don't have a layout, I have shared how my ATEM Mini Pro is coming into my Extreme already. So we're just going to add no switches, and all of those inputs are going to be able to come into my show, with the exception of I still will probably use a switch to be able to bring in program or multi-view. So let's do this now. Let's go to my Skycam. Taking chat off the air. Let's make this full screen. Okay, and then let's bring this on the air. And I apologize, guys, if this is a bit delayed. There you go. Skycam on the air. So the goal tonight is to get rid of these switches, and I have a close-up of those. I believe that is 4. No, that's these switches over here. And so one of them brings in my laptop and my PC, and you can see it goes into input number 4 of my Extreme currently. And then down below, I have multi-view in my PC, and it's going in to input number 3 over in my ATEM Mini Pro. So the goal is to replace these inputs into the Extreme ISO and bring them into the live show. So like for instance, if I was to take camera number 1, if I was to take camera number 1 now and pull it, it wouldn't come live because I don't have any outputs coming out of my Extreme ISO yet into my live stream. So the first thing I want to do tonight is I'm going to pull those main inputs that I use all the time, and then I'm going to pull the main output. And if the whole show goes down, I apologize. I'm going to stay on this view. So I'm only messing with channel 3 right now, which isn't live. So let me do that first. And I'll go to Skycam so you guys can see me do this. So let's go back to Skycam on the air. So the output is right here. So I'm going to pull it. And you lost everything from the ATEM Mini Pro. Again, that's because I don't have any cameras in it right now. So let me pull camera number 1. So chat came back on the air because I've moved that over, but I don't have a PC in there yet. So now I'm going to pull the PC channel. Apple TV's pulled. Camera 2. Let's go over 1. Off the air. Okay, so now I have my 3 main inputs in my new ISO, and let's see right now. Channel 3. Oops. Channel 3 is my PC, and multi-view program. If I cut to camera 1, so now I can bring my overhead camera on the air. So what I'll do right now is show you guys that. Let's go. It's me and my laptop. Let's see, me and camera 1, overhead and me. So there you have it. That's my extreme ISO coming in right now. So that's in 3 chat, or that's in channel 2. Channel 1 is my Apple TV, so we'll fire that up. Make sure that's, oh, I don't want to turn that one on. It should be on. Let's tether. Home theater. Back just a little bit. So let me cut back to me and the logo and see if this is live now. Yep. Now, one of the things I do want to solve is I do want to be able to see the multi-view from my extreme ISO number 2. I've never been able to do that unless I bring it into the stream. So I can push the button right now and see a real tiny multi-view in my BenQ multi-view from my extreme ISO 1, but it's super tiny. But I can tether now from my Apple TV and bring this on the air. So I will just take this live right now, and I want to do again me and my overhead, because that'll put this in. So those switches right there, I will be able to retire, because you can see I have program coming in there, an iPhone coming in, and then it comes through the switch. I will be removing this and coming directly from this one right into here. Right now you can see that I have the red one coming in, and I'll remove these switches after, but I just want you guys to know now, this is going to be dedicated to my Apple TV. This is dedicated to my overhead camera. This is dedicated to my PC, even though the PC will be probably moving into my other deck. And then you can see I have all the other outputs available until I get those taken care of as well. So again, extreme ISO number 2 is coming in HDMI out into HDMI 3 in. I can still bring one more HDMI in down here next to it, HDMI out 2, and I can bring that into channel 4, and that's my plan, and I'll be relabeling these. So what's left? So obviously one of my HyperDeck is going to move over, which I'm going to have to do off camera, because again, it goes SDI into a converter HDMI out, and it's all inside my desk, and I got to tear all that apart. So that can go over there. My shuttle is coming in right now. My HyperDeck shuttle. Fell back behind my desk, I think. Did it? Let me look. Shuttle. Okay, I unhooked it. So let's take off the tethering for a second, look at my list. So Shuttle goes into input 6. Input 6. I'm going to switch right now. I want program / streaming bridge. So I just bypassed the switch and put in the Apple TV directly into channel 1 of my ATEM. So now I have my streaming bridge, I have my Apple TV, I have my camera, overhead camera, and I also have my PC all coming into my new Extreme ISO. Now, what I don't have set up, my macro was designed to bring it on and off the air. Let's see, I think this will still work. Let's try it right now. So if I bring on air, yeah, nothing happens. So that macro is now broke for bringing that on the air. Let me think this through real quick. So that's channel 3. So let's see, PC is in channel 3. Let me full screen cast this. There you go. So now I can bring the PC on and off the air still because that macro works. So this is off the air, and then that macro brings the PC on the air. And again, so back to this view, I have now hooked up my Apple TV direct from the switch, and we'll go close up to the switch here. I think that is number 5. Nope, number 4. Number 3. There you go. So I've disconnected the Apple TV and put it directly in here. And now I have this red cable is free. So technically this red cable could go HDMI out, number 2 of the ISO 2 into the channel I want it. So right now I have my desktop. What am I changing here again? Again, I'll have to relearn how to operate this, and I do have a console tomorrow. So yeah, ATEM is going to go in 3 and 4, and so I would have to move my laptop to channel 5, and right now I have my HyperDeck 2 in channel 5. So let's just pull 5 and 6 HyperDeck. Even though I wasn't going to do that, I'm going to go ahead and pull it. Stand by. I think that's as far as I'm going to go tonight, just because if I start pulling HyperDecks, I won't be able to continue doing my show. So let's turn chat back on the air. Let's go to this other view in my Skycam. Let's see where we are in the chat. So, so the desktop, Jay, is my chat. And the reason for that is I'm not duplicating any screens. I have screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. Screen 1 is on my BenQ monitor, and I can make that 32 inches, or I can make it in a quadrant. Then screen number 2 is my Wacom 1 tablet. And so I can have chat in front of me. So I pop out chat, drag it down there. And then screen number 3 is my ATEM. So I can cast to that. So chat right now is cast to that. So I can turn it off the air, on the air. And all I'm doing is turning a key that's bringing that on the air, off the air through Luma key. So I got to adjust it to make sure it looks as good as it possibly can. Occasionally I get a super chat and the face disappears and all this is off because I'm not using a fill-in key. So again, so I can bring that on and off the air. I can also bring my Skycam on and off the air. Now my PC, my laptop, not my PC, desktop, my laptop, I'm duplicating the screen. So if you want to be able to just show your desktop in the middle of an event like this right here, chat off the air, me and my laptop, that I have to duplicate. I have to duplicate it so I can see it on my laptop, and I have to duplicate that so I can see it in the chat. So the box on the screen in my ATEM is one monitor, and the laptop is another monitor, and they're copied. So that way, anytime I cut to my laptop channel, my laptop's up there, and then I can add in here and I can play around with this live. And so that's why the PC is just 3 monitors and the laptop is 3 monitors, but 2 of them are duplicated so that I can display chat. The nice thing about OBS is that you can then cast full screen to any device that's connected. So that's what I'm doing. My chat and my Insta360 camera are then cast full screen. So that's why I go into OBS and turn one off and one on. So like right now, if I turn chat on the air, there's your chat. And then if I was to go over here in OBS, turn chat off the air, turn Skycam on the air, and I'm going to make this smaller now so it doesn't take over the whole screen. And now if I make the transition in OBS, there's Skycam, and I can bring it on during a live stream. I just normally have it set to chat, so I could bust you guys through all these different angles anytime, as long as I turn chat off and I turn my Skycam on. I can have them both on at the same time. That looks kind of crazy. So there it is. I could move Skycam up. So you can see I can literally have on the screen both things at the same time. You just don't see me doing this because it's usually one or the other. So chat on the air or off the air with a macro, and Skycam on at the beginning of my show or at the end of my show, or like tonight, where I'm trying to show you guys hooking up the ATEM. It makes a great camera for me to be able to bring on the screen live. Let's see, is it on? There we go. So makes a great camera to bring on the screen so you guys can see the studio, and I can cut to different angles with that camera. I can actually move it around live in my show as well using this little dial that comes with the software that I have on my screen. So I can go around my studio with this camera. It's a little overexposed tonight because I have it set to 1920 by 1080 instead of the 4K settings, and that gives me a better close-up. So when I do cut to a view like this where I want to show these splitters, switches, I want to lose all of these. That's a big reason why I went to this new device, and I have all these different views pre-programmed, and I can cut to those or just cut away from them and back into multi-view. And with my macro, I can cut to me and a logo, and I can still bring that on the air. Right now, it covers the whole screen. And if I turn just that off, and chat on the air, then just your question comes on the air. So hopefully that helps explain that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to auction off the switches. I probably will keep those. I'm sure I can find a use of those when I get into Studio B. Again, I want to have 2 sets in there, so I'm probably going to eventually have 2 cameras, and if I'm at the table set, I will probably just switch to it. If I'm on the desk set, I'll switch to it with a switch, unless I get a bigger ATEM eventually in Studio B. I should probably do a switch giveaway. I don't know if I'm a handsome white man, but my ear is gorgeous. Absolutely not dead gorgeous. Eerie, but gorgeous. Wah, 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 wah. No screwdriver, I don't think. I do have these. We should bust these out real quick. I told you guys I use these door stops to raise up my ATEMs. So I'll throw that away. So here they are. And I just need to add some Velcro. So what they do is then they tilt up my ATEM. One goes on one side, goes on the other side. And then I also have some Velcro, same thing, tear into that. Ugh. There we go. So I just need 4 of these. So we'll do the bottom of one of these yet. Now the downside of this ones I bought is they're ribbed in the bottom. I'd rather have it solid, but we were on our trip and I just grabbed these from Home Depot, and I did not have the other model number. So I'll just take this and put it towards the edge so I get a good stick on it. Turn the chat off the air and do the other one. And these surfaces look identical, so I don't think there's a bottom and a top version on these. This is kind of industrial Velcro, which I learned about in my RV business days. So let's see, we'll do this one on this outer edge. Stick that on there live. And then what I do is take the back of the other one off that's going to go actually on the ATEM. And I put them together so I don't have to try to eyeball that later. And then that's the sticky side. Not very sticky. Other sticky side. And I know we've been going for an hour and a half, so I do have some 2 minutes of Dallas footage I'll show you guys here in a minute. And I will have this all set up for next week's live stream. And hopefully be able to put Studio B together temporarily so I can demo going out there using my other camera right in the middle of a live stream. So we'll test that. We'll see how that works. So they're ready to go. So let's cut to Skycam. On the air, and oh, I put it on the wrong side. Great. Why would I put it on the bottom? I'm not sticking it to my desk. So these are going to go right here. Where are you? Skycam. So it's going to go right here. No stress. This is all live. And I may have to glue these with super glue. So then I'm going to lift this, put this one right here. this one right here. And we'll slide it into place. Move my disc out of the way. Now I am going to have to make a little change here. It's not going to slide into place yet. I have to reposition my microphone to get that to work right. So we've added feet to it. We have fired up that extreme ISO in the live. I only have one channel coming in right now. I will add a second input coming in next week, and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with multi-view. So I may split it, may order some splitters before next Tuesday. So again, that is a lot of fun to do these crazy things live, even though I 100% believe doing that live is crazy. So, but I try to live dangerously. And again, I apologize for not having the schematic. But again, I read that off to you. I still have to pull some inputs like the HyperDeck. I'm going to have to move some things, but I want to show you guys this quick video. I'm going to stay on camera here. So let's see. I'm going to, what channel is it in? It is in fill and key. So let's do this. Let's bring me and my laptop on air. We'll go into Super Source and we will change box 2 to no, that's me. Box 2. And let's roll this. What? Maybe I did not get a good copy copied over. Let me check here real quick. Well, that's good footage. So let's fix that. Let's go input number 2. Let's stop that. Wow. Well, that's a fiasco. So evidently the video I copied onto my SD card for my HyperDeck didn't work. And I unplugged the drive to record tonight that has all the footage on, so I can't cut to here. Let's see one thing here. Yeah, I didn't even render a video, so I apologize. I do not have a way right now to show you guys, or do I? No, I don't. So I will play that video next week. I apologize for not being able to show you my Dallas trip. So evidently, when I recorded the file to my HyperDeck, it plays for about a second, and then it goes black. And I'm just letting it roll here, and it's just black the rest of the 2-minute video. So I'm not sure what happened. It's not a HyperDeck issue. It's literally a issue with the file I copied over. Oh, wait, there we go. Got a little bit of footage. So I'm going to roll this right now like this. There is no audio, but I'll talk over. So he's pushing in an Evo into the main factory, and a lot of the finished work is done in this factory.
I'm here at the factory in Dallas, Oregon, and this is just the behind the scenes. I got all my gear laid out here. We've been shooting all morning, so check out some of this footage from the Dallas, Oregon plant.
This is footage of some products coming out, one missing decals. So this is a big, gigantic factory. It's about 4 or 5 football fields long. They have 3 of these. And my table's actually right over there in the corner. Here he comes in to pull units out and bring Evos in. We already shot in these Salems, and now we're going to go shoot in an Evo, and he's going to bring the Evo in. He's pushing it into the factory right there. And there is a aluminum laminated wall. They also build with just regular lumber, and you're going to see a clip of just lumber. There's an RV before the outside walls are put on, so all the cabinets go in on the floor first. Then all the electrical equipment, plumbing, and then they do the wiring. Here's the wood walls up. The last thing to go on is the outside of that wall. These are cabinets before any of the appliances have been put in, any of the wiring's been put in. So interior walls go up first. There's a floor. There's another floor. That's a fifth wheel floor. So they will take that over to a different factory and build on it. That's the insulation. And again, here is plumbing in. And they go through each of these lines.
I have my holder so I can set up. I've got 6 with my Deity Duo hooked up to it, so I have that kind of wireless mics right. I'm using the nicer Deity microphones, the Deity packs right.
And I'm losing audio.
And so again, that's how we're up to my.
And that's just a quick look. I just threw this together.
Mark IV, rocking it right now.
Of some of the stuff that I had.
On top of it.
And I'll be putting together a way better video in the future. I just threw that together tonight. I wanted you guys to see some clips. So 3 different factories. I got to shoot a factory video in all 3 locations, which I'm going to be just organizing that footage tomorrow and the next day and sending that off. They're going to do all the editing. They gave me permission to use some footage for my live stream to show you guys. But I was there for 2 days, carrying that gimbal around, the DJI Ronin S. Most of both of those 2 days shooting, I had 2 sets of microphones. I had my DJI microphone, as well as my backup microphone was my Deity kit. So in case I did have any audio drop out during the factory tour, I could replace it. So tomorrow I get to listen to all that audio and make sure that it's good and replace what isn't with my backup audio. And then once I get all of that organized and ready to go, I will send them an invoice, and I will then send them that disc once I get the check in the mail. And then I'm going back to do another shoot, not quite as complicated. Day 2, we finished the factory early in the morning, just a couple little things, and then I had to go through with 5 different factory reps and shoot their products. With 4 reps, I shot 1 product a piece, and they kind of did a walk around. And then with 1 rep, we shot a number of products. It's a brand new product, and I took some photographs, and that will then be broken up into some small short videos, as well as the photographs that I took will be out, posted on their social media. I'll probably go back and do some more professional photography for them, as well as we're going to do a camping scene in our next video event together sometime in March or April, depending on how the weather goes over on the coast. So 2 extreme ISOs hooked up. So Tony, I will, and Freddie and Jay, I will get out a schematic. It's going to be one of my nice colored schematics. I've already started. I'm working on one of those, though I don't have it ready for prime time. And you guys will see that when that's done. and I'll make sure it gets emailed, and then I'll bring that into next week's live stream. I'll have a little better behind the scenes video next week for our live stream, as well as I'll be working on my third video in the Stream Deck Plus series. That should be 5 to 6 videos total here in the next couple weeks. Now that I'm back from my little mini vacation and my shoot, I was gone 4 days on this shoot. It's a little over half a day of driving both ways. So thank you guys so much for tuning in live tonight. Let me catch up with the chat, and then we will wrap it up for tonight. So let me turn this. We're going to get this ready for the post show here. Or actually the outro, no post show tonight. And let's get back into the chat here. Sure, Joe would probably buy a Switch. Yeah, he probably would. It's going to go on his nightstand. That's hilarious. Keep going for broke. Yeah, that was going for broke tonight for sure, Jay. Let me read this. I feel like you should get a cheap desktop PC and a DeckLink card to do chat. OBS can output directly to DeckLink cards and do key and fill. Yeah, I've thought about that. I am going to probably add a not a super cheap laptop to Studio B, and I would like to have something dedicated for chat. So I like that. Again, getting a DeckLink Duo card, I could just put that inside a PC, right? I could actually add it to my PC. I'm not sure how that helps me. I'll have to process that, but I do have a slot in my PC here. I could put a DeckLink Duo card in there, but I think a dedicated PC for chat would be great. But then again, I have to have one more thing on my desk. Probably could just use my Wacom tablet for that, but great input. So your video issue is why I can't stand HyperDecks. Their standards are way too limited. I tried to get, yeah, again, HyperDecks are not complicated. They're designed to record, and primarily codec that they do best in is ProRes. And as long as you're rendering all your HyperDeck files, what you saw is not really probably a HyperDeck file. I literally threw that together in Premiere Pro. I had an issue recording it to one of my SD cards, so I went ahead and recorded it on a different SD card. I never played it back and tested it. I may have had a half a minute of blank space in my timeline. So in all fairness to HyperDeck fans out there, but I do understand your frustration. I teach on the HyperDeck all the time, and I just tell everybody, export all your files, ProRes, whatever format. If you need an alpha channel, you need to go to ProRes 444 and use it with our key channel. You need to do that pre-multiplied in your videos, and then you don't have any issues. But again, I can understand your frustration, Jay. And Tony, same thing, testing that with me. And I think you're talking about your DeckLink Duo, if that's right, Tony. Help me here. Yeah, and I might do that, post this video with voiceover. I'll process that tomorrow. You're welcome, Freddie. I'm glad that you guys enjoy these live streams. They've kind of gone from me being a little bit less cautious to living dangerously. Again, there's times where I'm not sure how wise that is. I could have possibly lost a stream tonight. I'm not set up to do a backup stream at this time, though I do want to add to my mix a backup stream. My thought process on that is to somehow figure out how to go to a web presenter just as a backup B stream. And that way, if A stream ever falls down, it will then drop over to the web presenter, because you have them both streaming at the same time. One is your main and the other one is your backup. So we'll see if I go that direction. Right now, I'm just trying to add all those extra channels. And in all fairness, adding that extra output, Tony, from the first extreme ISO to the second one really is going to help me out. And you think about it, there's things like multi-view. I wanted to get in tonight, but we haven't got in to, for instance, if I was to go in here, and let me just do this real quick because I wanted to demo this because I think it's pertinent to our conversation before we wrap up. So if I go into the first, let's do this. I'll pull this over so you guys can see it. So if I go in here and get multi-view or SuperSource ready, so again, if I go to, yeah, let's make it live. I'll make it live in this window. We cut to SuperSource. And then in my ATEM MINi Pro, okay, so if I was to go into SuperSource in my new ATEM Extreme ISO, and we'll make box one my Skycam, which timed out. So we're going to make box one my Skycam, and we know that that is input 2. And let's go ahead and what else do we have in here? We really don't have, oh, I have my PC. So can I do box number 2? We'll make it, well, let's choose this first. Then box number 2, we'll make it input number 4. And I must not have got my PC in there. So let's do Apple TV instead. Then we'll go into see if this works. So then we're going to turn off box 4, 3 and 4. So we've got input 2 in the box 1, and in box 2 we have input 3, which should be, no, it wouldn't be 3, it would be 1. Okay. And I don't have a background, but I'm going to put a background in here because I should have one loaded. There it is. So we're going to make the background media player 2. Now I want it in the background, not the foreground, so the background. And now what I want to do is SuperSource is on the air there. So let me bring SuperSource on here. And so there you go. This is the multi-view from my Extreme ISO number 2. And I wanted you guys to see that because I can bring 2 inputs in through multi-view, through the DVEs, right? Picture in picture. I could bring them in that way. In fact, I could bring 4 inputs in my live stream. So if I just want to show 4 inputs from my original, Stream Deck, I can in multi-view, or if I want to bring in, not Stream Deck, from my ATEM main, if I want to bring multi-view in, I can bring multi-view in right now, and that's what it looks like. But I also can cut to channel 3 and bring, obviously I have my camera down on the ground now, I can bring that in, so I could cut simply from one multi-view to the other multi-view back to my camera. So again, I can cut to super source from my main ATEM. I can cut over to super source from my other ATEM and then back to a camera. So there's lots of things that I've been processing I'm going to be able to do, and I'm really excited about that because again, that ATEM Extreme ISO I've added has multi-view, has 2 DVEs, 4 upstream keys. There's just a lot of things I can do. So I could have 2 streaming bridges in there, have a foreground graphic ready to go in one media player and a background, no background graphic needed. And then I could add in a couple, I could add in a title with both people's names on it. There's lots of things I could do and just bring in the 2 guests in a smaller window and then just lay me over top of it. Lots of things that I'll be able to do. It's going to be interesting to see how these 2 devices work together. And again, the diagram can change because once you get down past inputs and you get into super source and all of that from that ATEM, there's lots of power. So I can bring in 2 inputs through the 2 inputs they come into, right? And add them to a super source with the rest of my cameras. And again, that's simple to do. So right now, if I turn on super source and I go to the layouts and I go to, I got to change softwares here real quick. So if I go in, I turn on 3 and I add in my ATEM, that's bringing in the multi-view. And then I shrink this down. There it is in the background, right? So again, it's in the background right there. And so if I go to box 2 and make it smaller, then there is super source from Extreme ISO number 2 brought into my Extreme ISO number 1 super source. So lots of things you can do with that. So if I wanted to resize it, now I can have both those inputs on the screen at the same time as the 4 inputs that I can bring on the screen right now. So it's amazing the things you can do with this device with 2 of them together. So cut back to my overhead camera, and then I could just have that camera on the air right now in that input. So I can bring the super source, I can bring the inputs in from my ISO number 2. I can bring super source in from ISO number 2 and just cut right now between super source or a regular input because I'm just cutting with the front of the ATEM Mini Pro. So lots of things similar to what a 2ME would do or 4ME would do, but not exactly the same. And again, I don't have to do any converting. I can just move my HDMI inputs in and be able to do some of these cool things that I'm doing right now. Now, if you bought an SDI out, you'd be able to bring 4 SDI inputs into your current Extreme. You'd have to convert them, but now you could have 4 things from your first, in your ATEM Extreme ISO 1 coming from your Extreme ISO number 2 because it has 4 outputs instead of 2. So the SDI models do have a lot of power. I'm staying away from them right now, but imagine what you could do with 2 SDI Extreme ISOs because they have 4 outputs. So you could go to 4 different monitors from your main, and then you could come out of that Extreme ISO, the 4 outputs into 4 inputs in your Extreme ISO number 1. And that is something I should show you a diagram as well, because that was one of the things I was debating about doing. So anyway, crazy, crazy times here in the studio. And that's it for this stream. We've gone 2 hours. I'm done. It's good to be back. The extra hour is to make up for not being live last week as I was in Dallas, Oregon. Thank you guys so much for attending these live streams. If you haven't hit the like, I would love to get a like from each and every one of you. That does help the YouTube algorithm and other people get to discover this channel as well. And I would really appreciate if you guys help me with that. So please hit like. If you haven't subscribed and you're watching this either after it went live, or if you're watching right now, you can subscribe and chat after 1 minute if you haven't subscribed already. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. I would sure appreciate it, and it helps me grow here on YouTube. So again, guys, that's it for me tonight. I don't know if I even dare try to run my outro, but I'm going to. I know I have to change this, so I'll do that right now because my outro is on a different HyperDeck SD card. It says it's ready, so I am going to roll the dice once again. I hope you guys enjoyed that tonight, and I hope I'll see each and every one of you in future videos here live on Tuesdays each week. So I'm Keith. This is Life Journey Production Studios, and with that, I'm out. Have a good day. Good week.